Everyone mentioned today is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law, and everything I discuss here is theory until proven fact, even if it is. Hey guys, how you going? Okay, let's get into it. Okay, what have we got here? We have, if I can find my mouse. Rob Smith said, promising news, folks. One Nation's on track to hold the balance of power at the next election. With a picture of a Green Senator, Maureen Faruqi, I believe it is. Bad news for her, good news for the rest of us. Okay, Wall Street Maverick said it's a mystery. The experts still can't explain it. I seem to remember Australia boasting the highest COVID vax rate at 94%. Too weird. ABC News said Australians aged in their 30s and 40s are experiencing unprecedented, in some case, world-leading rates of 10 different types of cancer, and scientists are desperate to understand why. Does anyone want to tell the scientists why? I mean, most of us can, and we're not even scientists. Okay, Trump and wokeness said Trump, I don't want them. Their country's no good for a reason. I don't care about being politically correct. Let's have a listen. I've got to mute my microphone. Hang on a minute.
Somalians ripped off that state for billions of dollars. Billions. Every year. Billions of dollars. And they contribute nothing. The welfare is like 88%. They contribute nothing. I don't want them in our country, I'll be honest with you, okay? Somebody would say, oh, that's not politically correct. I don't care. I don't want them in our country. Their country's no good for a reason. Their country stinks, and we don't want them in our country. I could say that about other countries, too. Somalians ripped off that state for...
There you go. I agree with him. Senator Babbitt said you choose to live in a Christian country, yet reject the very traditions and faith that built it. If Merry Christmas offends you, Australia may not be the right fit. Flights leave daily, off you go. The White House said we're saying Merry Christmas again. POTUS. Way to go. McAmius said we're 10 years away from seeing this happen in Australia, where a third of children in Australia don't speak English as their first language. Cauldron Pool said deport them all. Truly staggering, almost 1 in 3 children in Glasgow do not speak English as their first language. That is insane. Is that true? That is insane. Okay, Libs of TikTok said meet Erica Duzo, the new mayor of Downington, PA. He's a man pretending to be a woman who's now doxing ICE's live locations to warn illegals so they can evade ICE. He also encourages people to go harass ICE agents. Wow. Wow. They really are. They're telling people where they are. Moron. Okay, well, traitor, actually. Traitor is more like it. Katie, here in Australia, said access denied to authorities attempting to conduct environmental surveys. A big crowd of farmers and supporters opposed to the VNI West project gathered at Wallaloo East in a show of protest. Support our farmers. That's here in Australia. Good on them. Keep those environmentalists out of there. Down Under Girl said, to all you dumbasses out there who keep calling us, those with common freaking sense, racist. Okay, I'm going to let her say it. How's that?
The mainstream media purposely want to mislead you into thinking that anyone who wants to slow migration is a racist. These people aren't anti-immigration, they are anti-mass migration. There is a difference. And the people who will be most affected by mass migration aren't the wealthy white people of the country. They are the minorities of the country that are already having a hard time. The media need to stop encouraging and baiting people into calling others racist just because they want everyone in the country to have a fair shot.
Exactly. Oh, I've got to skip past it. Sorry, guys.
Purposely want to mislead
I've got my speakers plugged in instead of my headphones, which is not good when you're trying to record a video. Mrs. S 2023 said, so we all also have the worst voters in Australian history for returning these morons. Get it? Come on, man. Said we have the worst PM in history. We have the worst treasurer in Oz history. The worst energy minister in Australian history. The worst housing minister in Australian history. The worst defence minister in Australian history. And we have the worst immigration minister in Australian history. We have the worst parties in Australia right now. So I'm going to like that one and the other one. We also have the worst voters in Australia. But they were imported. A lot of them were imported. They got in on a third, like 30-something% of votes. That's how they got in. So 64-something% of Australians did not vote for these people. Okay, Craig Kelly, Foundation for Economic something or other. Everybody, except the pedo leftist Blue Sky and the Chinese Communist control WeChat. Yep, that was that Minister Anika Wells, who is also pushing for, she's a communications minister, pushing for the under-16s ban. So, like, if I disappear in 6 days now, guys, you'll know why. The Cooker King said that's a couple who'd been married for years, or a gay man and his hired help, or a pig of a man treating his woman like shit. Professor Rogers said, breaking news, the sham wedding is over. She served a purpose. Now it's like she doesn't even exist. Anthony Albanese treats Jodie like shit. He won't even walk alongside her. No, he's just taken off. She's just the puppet wife, you know. He's a puppet prime minister. She's the puppet wife. Puppet wife? Yeah, that too. Okay, whatever that means. Canada said if you say you're on someone else's land, you should leave, or acknowledge the fact that if you conquer and take it over, it's yours. Just like the Comanche conquered the Apache and Iroquois conquered the Huron and took their land. Let's have a listen. Oh, I've got to mute my mic again. I've got to remember to do that.
If you're on somebody else's land, you should leave. I've confronted law firms who put, our building sits on the traditional land of yada, yada, yada. I'm like, okay, so how much rent are you paying? Right? Like, you're just putting it as a sig block to virtue signal that somehow you're a good human, but you're not fucking doing anything. If you're on somebody else's land, you should leave. Or acknowledge the fact that if you conquer and take over land, it's yours. Just like the Comanche conquered the Apache and took their land, and the Iroquois conquered the Huron and took their land. Right? At some point, you have to have a stabilized society to build around. Right? And all of human history involves moving territories. Right? It's not like out of the ground sprouted First Nations people who just, were bequeathed it by a god. Like, they killed and conquered and stole and took from each other. And I just don't know how our society grows when we're trying to outcompete each other to criticize Canada, as opposed to focus on what is spectacular about this country so that we can survive a few more decades for our kids.
That's the divide and conquer. That's the whole idea of it. Dr. Susan Humphreys said, has anyone found out the age of the infants who are reported to have died from whooping cough in Kentucky? Or the background health, or the treatment the hospital gave? I'm sure we'd all like to know. Okay. Elon Musk said, insane. Billboard Chris said, a man who raped a 3-month-old baby and drowned a 3-year-old was given breast implants by the BC government and is serving time in a women's penitentiary. Oh, dear God. When ideology replaces reality, women's safety is the first casualty, says Leela Rose Show. Listen to episode 270 of the Leela Rose Show, Apple Podcast. There you go. Wow. That's crazy. Our governments are absolute nuts. The inmates are running the asylum. Aussiebot said, why would you take such a risk with your kids? Australia's sick. Homeschool them. Lozzie B said, breaking. The principal of Keysborough Secondary College has been stabbed at school. Gorman City, Melbourne. Great. Now we've got people being stabbed at school. Dane said 2 women perform an Irish folk dance in Belfast. The white people have no culture narrative keeps getting clobbered by white people consistently showing their individual cultures. Go, ladies. Oh, well done. That's how you show 'em. Wow. Yep, Irish dancing. Colin Ruggs said new Trump White House punches back at Sabrina Carpenter after she called them out for using her song in a deportation video. The White House used Carpenter's lyrics in their response, asking if she's stupid or is it slow, which are lyrics to her man-child song. Here's a short and sweet message for Sabrina Carpenter. We won't apologise for deporting dangerous criminal, illegal murderers, rapists and pedophiles from our country, said the White House spokesman Abigail Jackson, according to Zetio. Anyone who would defend these sick monsters must be stupid, or is it slow? I think so. She's a bit slow. And this stupid woman again. Using two kids' suicide as their propaganda. Their mothers bought them iPhones and didn't monitor, but all are going to pay the price for bad parenting. Yeah, well, good luck with that. Let's have a listen. I've just got to make sure I listen.
I think the gratitude is that this law applies to everybody and that everybody will face the same cultural expectation that kids are not online on a social media account between the ages of 13 to 16. I think the sense that everybody will be facing a new world, everybody will need to interact with each other face to face the way that people used to do, I think is ultimately seen as a good thing when if you also ask those same kids, I suggest they'll be able to tell you about harms they or their friends have experienced online as well. I think the gratitude is that this law applies to everybody and that everybody will face the same cultural expectation that kids are not.
Look, while I agree most of us shouldn't be online like we are, I don't agree with the government policing and it's up to the parents, okay? But they used two kids' suicide as their propaganda. But the mothers bought them iPhones and didn't monitor them at all. Just let them have them. Liz Churchill said we need more people like this. Anti-vaxxer nurse who injected up to 8,600 elderly patients with salt water instead of COVID vaccine walks free from a court in Germany. Well done. Need more doctors like that. Bunce said Australia has 751,000 accessing the National Disability Insurance Scheme for varying disabilities. That's nearly 1 in 26 Australians are considered disabled. Sounds a tad sus. I think it's been ripped off. Sounds like just another free-for-all rort. I do believe so. I am medically disabled and tried to get help from the NDIS with mowing my lawn when I lived up by myself. And I couldn't. I know someone with brain cancer who hasn't got NDIS. I think it's being severely ripped off. Amy Curtis said, my grandparents ate maggot-filled meat during the Great Depression. They never stole or committed other crimes. I grew up poor. We never stole or committed crimes, so stop with the bullshit. And Wokeness said, Sierra Maddle, Bruce Harrell. When a man does 6 or 7 crimes, we do not know his life story. Maybe he was hungry. Therefore, I have zero desire jailing him. Mate, I agree with this person, Amy. Here. I even made my daughter return a little eraser, a rubber that she stole from a newsagent here in Australia and made her go back and apologise and tell them what she'd done. She never did that again, okay? There's a way to teach children. You don't really have to, you don't have to smack them. You don't have to... You know, there's other ways of punishing them that will teach them not to do it again. Retards Down Under said we still don't have a solid answer as to who this retard was standing behind Tweet and Jules yesterday when she declared war on smart cars being used as a weapon against women. And how about we just get rid of the smart cars if they're being used as a weapon against women? How about that? Let's go back to the old mechanical cars. Sounds bloody good to me. Okay. Yeah, they've all got their head nodders behind them when they're talking. A lot of them. Bile Holt said Madonna doubts Trump has ever watched a best friend die of AIDS, held their hand or seen their phase strain of life at just 23. Fun fact, Madge, most people haven't done that because most people don't wallow in a swamp of sexual degeneracy. I've been gay for 52 years, never come close to getting AIDS. Why? Because I respect myself and my body. People like Madonna who think sex is her plaything are the reason why society's collapsing. They roll the dice with high-risk sexual behaviour and casually spread disease to others while laughing about it. This shouldn't be idolised. They should be avoided. I never observed World AIDS Day for the same reason I never celebrated Juneteenth. There's just no real reason to. There you go. Libs of TikTok said Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara says that Somalians should call 911 if ICE shows up wearing masks to make arrests. He says police will immediately respond and intervene. Interfering with immigration enforcement is a crime, mate. And who are all these head nodders behind them too? Look, nod. Yep, nod. Noddy. How you going there, Noddy? Oh, dear. Okay, Michael O'Brien said Labor to dump PSO from train station. The police, that is, the police security, you know. The Allen Labor government is so broke it's now stripping Victoria Police Protective Service officers from metropolitan train stations at night. No PSOs equals no safety. In less than 12 months, Victoria can vote for a fresh start. And they're going to want to because watch Victoria end up like New York's subway. Okay, Senator Babette said, remember when they said all they wanted was to get married and anyone who warned about the slippery slope was called a bigot? Well, here we are. Public schools now serving kids lessons on incest and bestiality under the banner of inclusivity. This isn't education, it's ideological corruption. Mum taking legal action against the South Australian government after teen exposed to bestiality and incest in public school presentation. Watch your kids, man. A mother of 6 is planning to sue the state of South Australia after a public school presentation meant to promote LGBTQIA plus inclusivity made references to bestiality, brother love, sister love and sibling sex. Oh my God, what is wrong with these people? Okay, Mario ZNA, whatever. Okay, I'm turning American. Why EU and Zelensky don't want the war to end? Well, number one, Zelensky knows he's finished after the elections if he survives, meaning if Ukrainian people don't get to him first. And two, the EU warmongers know they're finished due to their ties to corruption and patriots rising. And I think Zelensky might be one of the keys to pull the whole thing apart. Jack Straw, Ukraine update. This was December the 1st. Social Policy Minister arrested for stealing $74 million in humanitarian aid to offshore accounts. Golden toilets, missing cash bags, ministers quitting. Zelensky's best friend fled to Israel. This isn't a government, it's an organised crime ring with the flag. War turned into the perfect money laundering machine. And this one, Eric Doherty said, holy crap, Secretary Kristi Noem just discovered that 50% of visas in Tim Walz's Minnesota are fraudulent. I looked into Minnesota and their visa fraud. 50% of them are fraudulent, which means that wacko Governor Walz is either an idiot or did it on purpose. I think he's both. Fraudulent visa applications signed up for government programs, took hundreds of billions of dollars from the taxpayer, and we're going to remove them and we're going to get our money back. Way to go. That's the way to do it. Get your money back. Michelle America First said, breaking. Starting next week, all 21 blue states who are refusing to turn over their data to root out fraud on food stamps will lose federal funding. Fantastic. Okay. Yep, she's just getting started on fixing the problems. The immigration fraud, Minnesota, that's robbed a lot of money. Benny Johnson said major, over 800,000 people have officially been removed from SNAP, confirmed by Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins. She highlights that the fraud is off the charts. 500,000 people receiving benefits twice, 186,000 dead people receiving benefits. That sounds like Doge. People receiving benefits in 6 different states. That's an incredible start. Keep removing more. No more robbing the American taxpayer. 800,000 of those 42 million have moved off food stamps, which is hopefully the plan, with better jobs, higher wages. We found 186,000 dead people or dead people's social security numbers being used. 500,000 people receiving benefits more than twice. We had a couple of people receiving benefits in 6 states. That's crazy. Okay, Wall Street Mav said massive fraud's being committed by Somalis in Minnesota, but the extra bonus story is this. The Somalis are pumping a portion of their stolen cash into Democrat campaigns. It's a money laundering racketeer scheme. Walls allows it, Dems get money. Derek Evans has said, Carolyn Levitt, 86 people have been charged in a rampant and widespread fraud scheme in Minnesota. Of those 86, 78 are Somali. What does not add to our nation's character is refugees who come here under the alleged plight of fleeing persecution, then abuse our system. And I fully agree. Okay, this is one of them apparently. Lives of TikTok, Somalian convicted of immigration fraud, working in Minnesota Sheriff's Office. Meet Omar Jamal, a Somalian convicted of immigration fraud who was ordered deported in 2011. Jamal is currently working as a community service officer for the Ramsey County Sheriff's Office in Minnesota. Why is a Somalian convicted of immigration fraud getting paid by our taxpayer dollars to work in law enforcement? Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Okay, Gunther Eagleman said Kash Patel just scared the hell out of every fraudster in Minneapolis on Ingram. FBI already locked up 78 Somali grifters in the biggest welfare fraud scam in Minnesota history, and Kash dropped the hammer tonight. We are not finished. This investigation is very much ongoing and live. We're going to continue to interview and subpoena anyone involved. Translation, if you stole taxpayer dollars in that Somali feeding fraud ring, sleep is officially over. FBI is still kicking indoors and they're coming for the rest. And they need to start going up the chain. Gunther Eagleman said another entitled Somali TikTok princess just dropped the most delusional cope video of the year. We're successful in one generation. Yeah, because half your community is grifting every welfare program, feeding our future level fraud, over 250 million stolen, and running Section 8 scams while crying racism when anyone notices. You didn't work hard. You worked the system harder than anyone else. White people are just jealous we have nice cars. No, we're pissed you're leasing 90,000 BMWs on EBT cards and fake daycare reimbursements while the rest of us pay taxes that fund your entire hustle. There's a difference. We save money and work as a family unit. Translation, 47 people claim the same Section 8 house, wire the cash back to Minneapolis mansions, and laugh at the dumb Americans paying for it. Real tight-knit. Al-Shabaab would be proud. If we were white Europeans, no one would care. Bosnians and Ukrainians came here with nothing too, and they didn't need a 250 million fraud ring to buy a Mercedes. Funny how that works. Keep bragging about how you'll still be successful if deported. Take your gift from Allah talents back to Mogadishu and turn Somalia into the superpower you keep claiming it could be. We'll wait. Until then, enjoy those nice cars while the feds keep seizing them one by one, while deporting all of them. America isn't jealous. We're tired of bankrolling your grift. Okay, let's have a listen to this BS.
You know, like the racists are actually just jealous of Somalis because of how successful we became in a matter of one generation. And I was watching a lot of videos that are coming up on my For You page where people are saying, how come Somalis have nice cars and we don't? We've been here like how many generations? We were born here, our ancestors are from here, but Somalis drive nice cars. This whole thing is just making me realize is jealousy. They're jealous of our success because they expect us like to be at the bottom of the bottom. right? And then we come here one generation, we work hard, we save our money. And Somalis are not the only community that...
Yeah, they work hard ripping everyone off. No one's jealous. They're all upset because you are grifting off the American taxpayer, you moron. Okay, anyway, Andy No said 5 Somali Muslims being charged for allegedly trying to bribe a juror to acquit their brethren on trial who were accused of stealing $40 million worth of taxpayer money, American taxpayer money, to feed hungry children. 5 were convicted at trial earlier this month. The bribed suspects allegedly carried out a plan where $120,000 was given to a juror with the instruction that she had to convince other jurors the prosecution was racist. They promised more money. 3 of the suspects allegedly destroyed evidence from their phones when they were ordered to surrender evidence. This is the first time in Minnesota history that bribes were made in a federal trial. Wow. Oh, God. These people are... Get them out. Get them out. Get them out. Same as Australia, get them out. Same as the UK, get them out. Same as Canada, get them out. Same as every Western nation, get them out. If they're so good, why aren't they making Somalia great again? I want to know. If all these people come here and we're so racist and so bad, first, why are you coming here? Why don't you go back home and make your country great again? Because your country's a shitholes too. Yeah. That's why they come here. A free ride. Inevitable West said breaking former EU Foreign Policy Chief Frederica Mogherini, I don't know how to say that, has been arrested in Belgium under fraud charges. Ursula von der Leyen should be next. So this is an EU Foreign Policy Chief, Frederica, whatever her name is, and she's been arrested in Belgium under fraud charges. I hope the rest of the EU Commission get done. Okay, yep, EU lives from corruption that will come to light once the Ukraine war ends. This is what I'm hoping. One will pull the rest of them down. Billions have flowed straight into the pockets of Ukrainian and Brussels elites. There you go. Dustin Grage said just in, Tim Walz's ally Jonathan Weinhagen, former Minneapolis Chamber CEO, is expected to plead guilty to 5 counts of bank and wire fraud after embezzling over $200,000. Tim Walz isn't wrong. It's not just Somalis committing fraud. It's also his donors. Okay. And another one, Publius bombshell leak, Minnesota AG Keith Ellison caught on tape telling Somali donors he'll fight the state's agencies investigating their $250 million fraud scheme. In other words, he's profiting off it. Right before they handed him $10,000 in campaign cash. Some of the same people in that room are now convicted felons. Is this you, AG Keith Ellison? Oh, with an Antifa anti-fascist handbook? Yeah, I'm sure. And these are the kind of I don't think they're hearings. They're called something else. These are the kind of things that Australians need to listen to more. They're all over YouTube. But listen to this BS. Australians versus the agenda. The e-safety Karen over here, Commissioner Julie Inman-Grant, is defending the upcoming social media ban by claiming that Australians have very low levels of trust in social media companies. That's true. But she says we have much higher levels of trust in government. BS. I'm calling BS. No, I do not believe it. Okay, let's have a look.
And I just wanted to go back to one of your questions, Senator, about the social media companies doing more. What's really interesting, and it's not the same in the rest of the world, but Australians generally have very low levels of trust in the social media companies, much higher levels than trust in government, and that's why it is so important that we're doing it. And I just wanted to go back to one of your questions, Senator.
Bullshit. I call bullshit. We don't trust the government. Okay. James Woods said, why wasn't this instituted immediately? None your damn business said federal gov should immediately invalidate all 4 million of those SSNs and whatever a bank Whenever a bank, employer or other institution attempts to verify one of the invalid social security numbers, it dumps an alert into a special ICE database-driven tracking system so they can be promptly detained and deported. What a great idea. Yeah, James Wood said, why wasn't this instituted immediately? Leading reports said breaking Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s vaccine advisor's plan to vote on stopping Hep B shots for newborns and to reconsider whether vaccines in childhood schedule may be contributing to rising allergies and autoimmune disorders per WAPO, Washington Post, okay? Mainstream. Don't censor me, YouTube. Okay, Mario Norfel said white fertility collapsed, the rest of the planet didn't. The generation now starting school is the first in recorded history that will grow up on a planet where people of European descent are a shrinking global minority. Native fertility across the entire Western world has collapsed below replacement and shows no sign of recovery. Italy sits at 1.24 children per woman, Spain 1.23, Germany 1.36, Poland 1.26, Canada 1.33, Australia 1.58. Even the US non-Hispanic white rate is only 1.64. Meanwhile, Turkey is 1.99, Egypt is 2.9, Nigeria is 5.2, Pakistan is 3.4, Indonesia is 2.2, and most of sub-Saharan Africa remains above 4. Layer on top the largest sustained migration in human history between 2000 and 2025, roughly 110 million people moved from the global south to Europe, North America and Australia, with UN projections showing another 200 to 300 mil by mid-century. No previous empire, no previous century has ever seen population movement on this scale. The result is already visible in every major Western city. Native children and minorities today in the public schools of London, Paris, Amsterdam, Stockholm, Toronto, Sydney, and most large American metros. The rest of the West is simply next in line. By 2040 to 2050, the native-born of European descent will be minorities in the under 30 age group in every single Western country without exception. This is no longer a national story. This is the biggest demographic turnover the world has ever witnessed, happening in one human lifetime, driven by fertility differentials no government has ever reversed, and migration flows no democracy has ever stopped once they reach critical mass. The same elites who spent 30 years dismissing these trends as racist fever dreams now quietly place their own children in private schools that remain 80-90% white or East Asian, while lecturing the rest of us to celebrate the transformation they personally avoid. History has watched founding populations lose demographic dominance before. It has never once ended with the old culture, language or social trust intact. The West is running the experiment at global scale and warp speed. The numbers don't negotiate, they simply arrive, one kindergarten class at a time until the old world is gone. And Elon Musk said it's a fact too. Jack saying breaking Elon Musk warns that white people are at serious risk and should no longer be called the majority because they're now a minority. And he's right. Okay, did I like that one? There you go. Okay, Ben Stiller is an idiot. Okay, it's another one. Tim Pool. We'll read what Ben Stiller said first. Somalis are not garbage. Immigrants and refugees from anywhere are people like you and me. They should not be demonised. This country is built on the backs of people who come from other places. It's what our country is all about. Tim Pool said, thank you, Ben. Awesome to see good people standing up for humanity. Can we arrange your help for some of these Somali migrants in need? We need to find homes for them, and you have the means to help these people. Will you help take in some of these needy young men? Oh, dear. And this one. Had to say this one. They're talking about the under-16 social media ban, right? Albanese says he doesn't feel pressure but a responsibility for the parents who've lost their kids by bullying on social media. Sol Grover said, will he be banning schools because the bullying happens there too? And more up in your face, bullying happens there too. It's going to ban schools now? Okay, Mike Engelman said Jasmine Crockett is toast. Leading reports said Breaking, Ken Paxton leads Jasmine Crockett by 8 points in a 2026 Texas-US Senate poll per Change Research. There you go. Hopefully she's out. Okay, Chicago Ray said, holy... FBI agents walking out with boxes of evidence, one of 2 facilities raided in Minnesota. Court documents show a dozen defendants received involved in a $250 million scheme to prescribe autism in Somali children. Tim Walz ignored this, and Ilhan Omar... Tim Walz ignored this. Him and Ilmar are going down. I hope they do. They ripped off, mate, you guys. And remember this guy from the other day, the pedo that was caught with 3 other people? Last 2 videos I think I've done, I have spoken about this. Listen to this. Lisa said, Sydney, Australia, where an Indigenous man allegedly led a horrific satanic abuse gang. He is a known far-left extremist, a homosexual, wants to abolish Australia Day. Is that why there's next to no coverage in Australia? Because he's left-wing? The story is so shocking it's gone viral internationally, yet someone or something in Australia seems to not want this broadly out in the open. Why? The notices said far-left homosexual Aboriginal journalist Landon Germanotta Mills is among 4 men refused bail in Sydney over an alleged international satanic pedo ring. He regularly posted left-wing extremist content online, including demands for Australia Day to be abolished, attacks on March for Australia, the promotion of Black Lives Matter, and articles about neo-Nazis. Apparently he's Aboriginal. Anyway, severe lefty. Okay, so we got that one. And our media won't report on it. And this to end it off for today. This is very, very cute. So I wanted to show you this, just some feel good at the end of the video for today. Okay, enjoy. And I will talk to you tomorrow, guys. I'll leave you with this one. Have a good one.
How are you two? Hey? Hey. This is Maverick. Yeah, and that's Ace. Ace loves a scratch. Hey, be nice to your sister.